All right, so this is going to be
Final segment.
segment four, which might actually be released out of order, either first or second, because this is the timely issue because it just went down the other day.
Yeah, within the last 48 hours still, I believe.
Right, and
well,
this is
Friday,
a very,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Friday.
Yeah,
So there's a
Sunday,
very contentious issue where I think that quite possibly a new era has actually dawned on American politics.
And not in a good way.
And not in a good way. Where, since World War II, we've allied with Europe and, other countries throughout the world after, the Axis and the Allies, and now we're part of the Axis. Literally,
pretty much, yeah.
And it sets up, it was just an incredibly disturbing display and sickening, in my opinion, to watch. If, anybody who has been involved with any kind of bullying in their life or an abusive relationship of any sort, even if it's family dynamic, it's got to be just stomach churning to watch what's going on here. Unless, of course, you are an individual who doesn't understand that behavior and may even applaud it because in your mind that's a show of strength because you're still sick and you need therapy. Because obviously, if you don't understand what went down there, you seriously need therapy. So,
because it wasn't just quote unquote false strengths, it was also blatant lies and stuff. I mean,
it was gaslighting to the ultimate degree. It was an ambush. It was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting to witness. And like I said, anybody who saw anything other than that is a severely disturbed individual.
But just to start off with some of the silver lining, we were talking about this, and now that this has been discussed in much more minutia, and by this I mean the whole Ukraine situation, it turns out that the amount of money coming from Europe has actually been equal or greater than what's come from the U.S., not the other way around, such that if, as now appears to be the case, the U.S. cuts off or curtails what we give, it's not as big of an issue as it. I mean, in terms of militarily, it's less of an issue than we thought it was. In terms of the optics, it's still terrible. But
yeah, I mean, there's, I'll talk about that in a second. But I just want to go back and say something. If this comes out before the other episode where Al was talking about, Steve was talking about violence, and it was in regard to this very topic that we're discussing right now, because like I said, the visceral response that I get from watching that, it's gotten to a level to where if somebody is defending that irreprehensible behavior on so many levels, not just on the level of, that just completely screwed us in the world, period. And he's allying with, a dictator, a murderous dictator. At that level alone, it's just utterly disgusting. But just at the personal level that it must reach a lot of individuals who watch that, makes you want to punch someone in the face. And there's videos going around where Zelensky's literally punching Trump in the face.
Yeah.
And that went back, that goes back to the discussion that we'll have there, that unfortunately, I don't want to believe it. I try everything in my life, and I've never punched somebody directly in the face just out of, unless it was self-defense. But at what point, if you're being assaulted in that regard...
it's funny that you bring that up, because I was talking to Rosie, my wife, about this just yesterday, that when I was younger, elementary and high school, there were a couple of incidents where I did hit people, in the gut or the face. And what's telling is that my recollection was that nothing provoked it. I was just like, and then I just walloped on them. And Rosie's point was, well, maybe it was because your dad spanked you and stuff. And I was like, I don't know, maybe that is it. Because it wasn't self-defense. I mean, there were later high school self-defense, but at the time I'm thinking it was just, I don't know what took me over. It was
did something that they do provoke you?
Not on the level. I mean, I knew at the time that what I was doing was acting out and wrong.
Right.
I'll phrase it.
Why did you target them? I guess is the
point. Because they were there. I mean, literally, I was in the back seat of a car with my cousin, and I knocked him in the eye, and But I don't remember him saying anything to irritate me. I was just like, hey, I could hit him, bam, and then Where did that come from?
That's
I
a
don't
whole
know.
different discussion that we can get into.
Okay, but
yeah, that's a lot to think about there. But there could be some psychological with like a whole dynamic with like what maybe you're acting out to get attention. Who knows what? But yeah. But we're talking about at what point is self-defense require violence? Or if ever, for some people, they would, some people will start themselves on fire in defense, so.
well, or the thing going around the internet for years now of help us out to punch a Nazi,
Right.
and people will say, oh, well, you shouldn't be violent, but the counter argument is if you really are embracing that ideology, you're already projecting violence because that's what the ideology promotes.
Right. So this is a very, very, there's a lot of muddy water there. And we'll get into that in a different discussion, I think. I think it really needs to be investigated, even in my own mind. And like, I've always been always had an attitude of being very passive when it comes to violence. And it's only to extreme measures throughout my entire life. And I've displayed that like in tremendous amounts of restraint throughout my life when it comes to violence. And, even in situations where it could have been warranted, I didn't engage. Even when attacked, I tried to find ways to get away rather than engage. And, so at what point, though, does the assault become necessary? Or do you just allow them to assault you and take the lumps like Martin Luther King would or Gandhi and just see where it goes from there, so and hope to appeal to the better nature of humankind to see your suffering and say enough is enough, and I think that we probably should get in this discussion later time. I think in my mind, I would probably go that route in the beginning.
Okay, but like you said, we're on an interesting precipice where on the one hand, we're needing to stand up more than ever before, but as somebody else said, we need to be more cautious than ever before because we are not at this moment working from a place of power.
Right.
We've had that stripped from us more and more day by day.
And you could be just playing into their hands because once the violence starts, that is going to be their reason to up the ante with the violence and completely crush down.
Right.
So are you just playing into their hands if your violence isn't strong enough right off the bat?
And or if it looks like you were the initial instigator.
Right. And when these people darbo, it makes you look like the instigator in a lot of cases when all you're doing is reacting to the violence. So it's a very, very what do we do from here situation. And
so in case we haven't already done so, you want to give a 1 minute rehash of the Zelensky episode?
So the reason this is being discussed is because Zelensky was bullied. He was put into a situation, right, where he's coming into this and it appears to have been a complete and utter ambush and they never really intended to negotiate at any level. It was a way to bring him in there and humiliate him. And he was dealing with Donald Trump, who is a known liar, thief, con man, 4,000 litigations against him, has never kept his word on anything, has stiffed subcontractors, has ruined people's lives, is, obviously in bed with Putin in terms of what they're trying to get out of Zelensky out of all this. He is in this negotiation. He wants mineral rights, and he also wants to give property to Putin, right? So under those circumstances, would any country be willing to do that? Would Americans, ask yourself as an American, would you do that?
But here's where it gets
continue.
Okay, sure.
So would you allow that to happen, right? Would you allow that to happen? The answer is probably no. And that is why it's so disingenuous for people to say, well, he came in there, he should have had his head bowed down, and he should have, done this and this and that, which is absolutely preposterous because he was going in there, right? And he was going to make a deal with Donald Trump, which was probably never going to be fully granted to him, even if he did sign this deal, which was basically extortion of their mineral rights so he can get some money, which he never would have probably ever, whatever the negotiators was, he would have just took it and gave the land to Putin, and him and Putin would have figured it out, which is what they already did. when Zelensky came in there and it wasn't showing absolute obedience to this humiliation that they inflicted upon him from the start. The first thing that happened when Trump saw Zelensky, he said, "Nice outfit." Everybody knows that Zelensky said over 3 years ago, when Russia invaded, that he was going to wear the military uniform in solidarity with the troops until the war was over. And I think the beer too or something. I don't know. The whole thing was, this is now his uniform, right? That's the first thing. And then he sits down, and what happens? Some joker, some alleged press guy who's like
Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend or something,
shit. Like some lunatic just, "Where's your suit, buddy? Where's your suit, buddy?" I mean, it just sounded so sickening and disgusting. This is after Elon Musk.
I'd forgotten why he wasn't wearing one, but once you pointed out, it makes it that much worse, because it wasn't just like, oh, he happened to not be wearing one. He was specifically wearing what he did, because this is how he has done ever since the start of the war.
Yes.
It's
and everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Anybody knows
right.
that, right? These guys know that. Because Al didn't know, that doesn't mean anything. But
and I probably did know that. I just forgot. Whatever.
That's beyond the point. The thing is that was a setup. That was a state. That was to humiliate him. It's so disingenuous. Musk was in there looking like he just crawled out of bed.
I thought Musk wasn't there.
No, when he came into the Oval Office looking like he just crawled out of bed with his kid picking his nose all day.
Right.
Like he brought his little kid in there picking his nose and
that thing.
Come on, man! Like, you guys really care about a suit? You really you want to humiliate this man. It's so fucking obvious. It's so sickening and disgusting. You bullies all sitting there bullying up on this guy because you know you got him under your thumb, or you think you do. And then
what was bad is apparently Zelensky walked in there and was going to basically sign over what they'd agreed to, and then Trump turns around and says, "No, now it's a little different."
Yes.
And it's like, oh, wait a minute, don't just. Jesus Christ, just no.
So he was disingenuous from the start. It was a bully session. He basically even said it when they started having that heated exchange, that you don't have the cards. You lost. You're not going to win this. He just kept on saying, "You're not going to win this. You're not going to win this."
Of course, what's funny about that is everybody said that the war would be over in 3 days when it started, and this is 3 years later. So obviously,
well, that's what he said. He's like,
yeah,
that's what they said. It was going to be 3 days. I'm still winning, all right? Like, so, and then he's like, you've never been thankful. It's like, I've been thankful. Like, he's been thanking. There's like,
but part of it is that Trump basically acted like the Biden administration wasn't America at all. Like, when you thank those guys, but they're not us. Well, what? Yeah. It was weird.
Because
it was really weird.
It was just about Trump's ego. And and like I said, anybody who saw something different is sick in the head. Is seriously a sick person. They need therapy because it was disgusting. And then he tried to make Zelensky the aggressor, saying that and then he it was just gaslighting at the highest level I've ever seen. It was textbook. It was straight out of a textbook what he was doing to him. And then when he tried to say something like, "You're going to start World War III," this is a classic Trump projecting, because he's the one who's going to start World War III by siding with Putin when the rest of the world is already allying together against the United States. He has isolated us now from the rest of the world. Canada just set up a 25% tariff against us.
Mexico's doing the same thing.
Going to do the same thing. This is going to be a trade war first, and we'll see where it escalates from there, how ugly this gets. Europe is already having emergency meetings to discuss what they're going to do about the United States. He has isolated us from the rest of the world at this point. That's why this is so serious. He is starting World War III, him and Putin against the world. So China's kind of like sitting back in all of this in India. But he is starting World War III. The same way he would say something like, and the more and more I see this, the more and more obvious it becomes. If he says something, look into what he's doing. When he said people should go back to work, he said because they're going to be golfing all day. You look at what he's been doing, almost 30% of the time he's been president, he's been golfing all day. His accusations are always confessions. So just watch what he's saying and then look at what he's doing, okay? When he's saying that somebody's doing something, look at what he's doing. He's starting World War III, not Zelensky. He shows everything. So, and anyways, you don't have the cards, right?
He said
You
that
are
several
gonna-
times. It was weird.
Yeah, you don't have the card. Like, this is a game. And then Zelensky said that this is not a card game. And then he's trying to say, we're trying to negotiate here. Why are we even negotiating? We should be helping our ally. We should be helping our ally. We should be stopping this aggression throughout Europe, which is extremely fucking dangerous with these oligarchs. And look, I'm just going to throw this out there. This is the lesser of two evils in my mind. You think I love the European like capitalist system of like at least they're in the right directions, but they're having their own problems. This is not about 100% right, 100%. This is not black and white, folks. In my mind, this is not black and white. Just like World War II wasn't exactly 100% black and white, but there was probably a side that fortunately won, right? We're not talking about black and white. You can't look. I'm not going to say Zelensky's like freaking like make him out to be some hero, and he's this, he's doing what he can under the circumstances. And I'm sure there's some skeletons in that dude's closet somewhere. And you could bring up a lot of stuff about anybody, me, Al, who knows? I mean, people could tear me apart and shred me to pieces. I'm sure with bullshit, but as a whole, just looking at the what's happening from a big picture, I'm on the side of Europe. Okay, I'm not on the side of so he's obviously sided with Putin. And this, if you want to have this discussion, and I know I'm totally monopolizing all this.
No, that's fine. I've been talking about
when you look at Putin, right, and you look at what he's doing throughout Europe, trying to get these oligarchs to take over pretty much basically Eastern Europe, and they've already compromised Belarus. Back when the Berlin Wall fell, and there was trillions of dollars that got out of the Soviet Union after the fall, where did a lot of that money go? Well, it just so happens that Trump, and some of this stuff can be looked up and found. So, if you don't believe me, look it up. He had been going through
a hotel
bankruptcies. He was going through bankruptcies. Yep. He was having difficulties financing things. Oh, suddenly he's got money. Suddenly he's got all kinds of money to do things, right? A lot of people are buying up his properties and real estate inside. Who are these people? Where's this money coming from? Yeah, who are these people? Where's this money coming from?
Some of them were Russians, yep.
When the banks wouldn't give him loans anymore because he'd get gone bankrupt.
Deutsche Bank for a while.
Yeah, do you think for a second that he doesn't have ties with some of these people or discussions? We know that he talks to Putin. He admits to it. He admits. Some of this is all on public record. So, yeah, I think, it's not a stretch. It's not a conspiracy stretch. It's public record what has happened and how he has benefited from the oligarchs of Russia after the fall of the communism. If you wanted to call it that, whatever you want to call it, what's going on over there after Stalinism and all
the fall of the Soviet Union. Yeah,
we'll just call it that. So, yes, he is allied with them and not with Europe. Trump individually as a person who has now brought that into us, into our lives. He is a Putin stooge. Putin's got his hand up his butt. Do you think for a second, now Trump tried to say, I'm just for peace. If you were for peace, you would have told Putin to stop shooting and get the hell out. But you didn't, did you? You bullied on the small guy and you kissed the butt of the big guy because that's the kind of man you are. Power is everything to you, and Putin has the power, and you're his little sock puppet with his hand. Putin has his hand up your butt, and even Kamala Harris called him out on that one.
Yeah,
these guys will eat you for lunch, dude. You're a joke, and he is a joke. He's a joke of a man.
But what scares me is did you watch when Musk was in the White House? Because one of the things that was very telling was Trump basically said and did nothing. Mm-hmm. And so I take that as a sign of senilities, and the reason that scares me is not because I have any good words to say about Trump, but the idea of J.D. Vance scares the bejesus out of me.
He's insane.
Yeah, but he's going to take over if
Trump gets
So
if anything happens to Trump,
yep.
Which is another discussion.
Yeah,
I don't see him lasting for you.
No, he one way or another he will not.
If it's not a foreign entity, somebody domestically,
or just his own health. I mean, I do not see him lasting one way or another.
Right, and if Vance does, look, this is not going to end well for Musk and Trump. At some point in time, how soon? I don't know.
But the longer it lasts, the worse it is for the rest of us.
Right. The worse it's going to be for the rest of us. It's a Hitler situation. You know, how many people tried to assassinate him, take him out in many different various forms, until, unfortunately, in that case, it wasn't until complete destruction, you know, of Germany. I don't think it'll get to that point. I think there's way too many people that are enlightened enough this day and age to see what's happening to allow that to get to that point, hopefully.
Yeah, but how close do we get to it?
But how close do we have to get before something like that happens? Yeah. And once again, that goes back to, are we being alarmists? Are we going to, should we just pipe down Buttercup?
Well,
it's going to be okay, Pumpkin. Somebody wrote that, literally wrote that on one of my comments. Oh, it'll be okay, Buttercup, Pumpkin, pipe down. When I call him out for being a bully, I'm like, yeah, you've been a bully since high school, but you're an idiot.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
I was just going to say, there's still things that I'm expecting to see that haven't happened yet. And my point is, by the time they do, if we aren't prepared or what have you, then we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, it'll be too late to do anything about it. It'll be too late to do anything about it.
Only the question is, what do we do about it, even if we can see it coming? That's the question.
And then, and then, you know, it's funny too, because, you know, we've discussed how he was just trapped in there. There was never a negotiation to be had. It was just nothing but a bully session. They were totally disingenuous about any of the shit they were saying to him, and they were being a bully. And then people who didn't outright love what Trump did, which are the disgusting, vile humans who need to have therapy, they were ones who said, well, if Zelensky was a good negotiator, he should have done X, Y, and Z. And my response to that is, yeah, if she didn't want to get accosted, she shouldn't have wore that dress. Like, you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, it went, looking at it in hindsight, Zelensky had to have, he had to have been prepared for something like that, and it probably went as well as it could have gone.
Right. He showed tremendous amounts of restraint, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's why I should never, ever be the leader of anything, because I would have probably punched him in the face.
Especially not the country or state.
And like I said, I've never punched anyone in the face before. So, I mean, outside of like trying to defend myself.
When
I was a little kid, I mean, we're talking back
like that,
in like high school. Like, that's how long it's been. Like, I don't get fights. Like, I've had people punching me and I just got away. I just like, hey, knock it off. And then people broke it up.
But that's, yeah.
But I've never, any fight that I ever engaged in that lasted more than 20 seconds and then up on the ground in a wrestling match, yeah, that hasn't happened since like middle school. Like, no, I'm not a violent, aggressive person by nature. I will verbally come after you, but no. If you know, probably if you're deserving of it. Sometimes I just go off, but yeah.
Yeah, because we all need to.
Because we all need to.
Every once in a while, yeah.
I'm no saint. I'm no saint. Don't get me wrong.
By
any stretch.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're.
But anyways, yeah. So that's, you know, I think we've covered.
We're either going to open another rabbit hole or start talking in circles at this point. So.
Right. So that was the Zelensky situation. Yep. I'm not sure if there's anything. Okay. So we talked about everything from what went down, the consequences of what happened there.
One point I've been meaning to interject is we know, like with Netanyahu, that situation is, for lack of a better word, seriously fucked up.
Right.
But the difference, the key difference is we have been on the side of Israel for decades. In this case, we have been on the opposition to Russia for decades. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, we're on opposite sides of where we would normally be, and that's what makes it even worse.
Well, then the hypocrisy of all of it is so insane that if you can't recognize it, like I said, you need to get some help, like some and this all goes back to, and we'll just wrap it up with this. You know, I've been making comments on social media and stuff like this, and I'm getting the same type of responses that like, oh, you're overreacting, or what are you doing, like, or you know, this and that and the other. And once again, this goes back to that abuser mentality, you know, of, well, you know, just sit back and enjoy the ride because there's nothing you can do about it. You know, that's the way I see this. Like, it's time to say something. It's time to go get out there and just be like, no, enough's enough. And you're not going to call me the crazy abusive one for reacting to this insanity. Right. You're not going to get away with it. You are not. So if you want to come on this thing and talk crap to us, me and Al here, bye-bye. Nope. You're not going to do it. You're not going to say we're crazy. You're not going to come on here and say that we got it wrong. or that we're the ones who are being aggressive and abusive. No, you're not going to gaslight us. You're only gaslighting yourself. You're the one in a trauma bond who needs help, not us. We're fine. We're fine. We're the sane ones here, reacting completely sane way in a completely insane situation. So good luck trying to come at us with anything, because goodbye. If we do respond, it's just going to mock you, to ridicule you and call you an idiot. That's it. That's the only response you're going to get. You're going to get nothing else. Look, if you have something to say that might be halfway intelligible, that might condone a response, possibly. I highly doubt it. Good luck, Nick.
Yep.
So we'll end with that.
Sounds like a good spot.
We are really putting ourselves out there for some, for some heat. I don't know.
It's hard to say sometimes.
Right.
Again,
we're not getting a big.
But we seem to be getting a few more people each episode than we did the one before and the one before, which is overall a good thing, except that once again, the more people, the more likely it is that we'll get trolls or other people trying to throw
Right. If you want to have an honest discussion about how far do you take it? Yes, let's have the discussion. But we're not going to have a discussion on, you guys are just out of your mind. Goodbye.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Until next time, folks. We'll see you later.